Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into part 2 of the 8th Winter 2021-2022 update from GavsWeatherVids. So here we go again, it's time to bring you the second part of another winter update. As always, with the second part of the winter updates, we're focusing on the analogues for this one. And it's another big week. You know, every week is important, but some of the weeks are a little bit more important than others when we look at the teleconnection data. So last week, in part 2 of the 7th Winter 2021-2022 update, we brought you solar analogues of the solar cycle. This week, we bring you QBO, Quasi-Biennial-Oscillation analogues, and I'm going to get on with that for you in a second. But yeah, this is like one of the important teleconnection drivers, you know, within the winter forecast. So very, very pivotal, very important update here. And as I said, I'll get on with it for you in a moment. Just to say that part 1 of this 8th winter update was released yesterday. That's looking at things like sea surface temperature anomalies, Eurasian snow cover, what's going on with the stratosphere, etc., etc., etc. So please check out part 1 of this 8th winter update if you have not yet done so. It's very interesting watch. Have a look and see what's going on if you would like to do that. Thank you so much, everybody, for checking that out. You can find it through the winter updates playlist on the GavsWeatherVids YouTube homepage. The first video is our 7 AM broadcast, and we've also released a 10 to 14 day as well, so please check out those 2 videos if you would like to do that. Thank you so much to Rich. Thank you so much to Richard Traw for the incredible winter updates gift. I love it. I love it, Rich. Thank you so much to Richard. I'm a little bit giddy tonight doing this. Thank you so much, Rich, for the amazing winter updates gift. And also thank you so much to Shryan as well. Shryan Bruin for helping me get all of these analog years together. Thank you so much, Shryan. Thank you so much to Rich. Okay, shall we do it? I think better do it. And we will... I'm so sorry, buddy. We'll have a look at some analogues data. But before we do that, we will actually have a look at the QBO itself. So, of course, we looked at the QBO yesterday, but, you know, got to put this into context. So, this is the QBO page at NOAA. So, the Quasi-Biennial-Oscillation, just to very quickly explain about it. I thought we'd come back up. Quasi-Biennial-Oscillation, go back here actually. Quasi-Biennial-Oscillation is basically telling us the strength of the zonal westerlies. You know, so it oscillates between westerly and easterly QBO phases. When you're in a westerly QBO, you are essentially strengthening the zonal westerly flow. And when you're in an easterly QBO phase, you essentially weaken the zonal westerly flow. So and it's very, very broadest. A westerly QBO is associated with an increased risk of zonality, westerlies, mild weather in the winter for the UK and for the North Atlantic and for Northern Europe, whereas an easterly QBO is slightly, I suppose, or maybe a little bit more on the side, but you know. If an easterly QBO kind of favours like more wave northern blocking and colder weather. I would like to be able to say that it's very strongly favour, but I don't want to give the analogues away. So you'll find out in a moment as we go through them just how much an easterly QBO, you know, favours northern blocking. But not every easterly QBO winter is cold, and not every westerly QBO winter is mild. That's something that, you know, gets a little bit forgotten at times when we talk about the QBO, but it is an important factor that we need to keep in mind. Right, okay, so that's giving you a very brief sort of explanation about QBO. So this is a QBO page at NOAA. This is showing every month's worth QBO back to the 1940s, but unreliable. Really from the reliable time with this, we go from around the middle of the 1950s. So let's come down to the current year. Let's come down to 2021. Here it is. So begin 2021 actually with a westerly QBO, quite a strong westerly QBO. But we had during winter 2020-2021. That began to weaken through the spring, and we see that it reverses as we go into the summer. So summer 2021 sees a developing easterly QBO phase, very quickly powering up with this, very quickly becoming a strong easterly QBO. So after a strong westerly QBO to start the year, it very quickly starts going into minus double digits as we go into the latter part of the summer and then on into the autumn. We have not yet got October's number. That will go just there. November will go just there, and December will go just there. We're very, very confident that the winter 2021-2022 will be an easterly QBO winter because these phases running around, these cycles, I should say, westerly, easterly QBO phases or cycles tend to run in around sort of 12 to 15 month blocks. Actually, the easterly QBO tends to be a little bit longer than the Westerly QBO. So Westerly QBO tends to run for around 12 months. Easterly QBO tends to run for about 15 months on average. I think sometimes it's a little bit shorter than that, and sometimes it's a little bit longer than that. The same for Westerly QBO. But on average, we expect that the Easterly QBO will be around 15 months. Westerly QBO will be around 12 months. And so given that this Easterly QBO didn't really start until May, June, we're expecting that, unless something very unexpected happens, we will keep the Easterly QBO going through the remainder of this year, definitely, and on through the first half of 2022. Probably reversing back to Westerly QBO sometime late summer to early autumn of 2022, but we don't need to worry about that, of course, for this particular video. So what we're going to be looking at is easterly QBO winters. Now, there are, of course, various ways that you can have an easterly QBO winter, so it's important to work out the kind of easterly QBO that we have got for this winter. So, for example, you could have a situation where you're developing an easterly QBO, really. So, a good example of that, a year that's sort of developing an easterly QBO, will probably be, let's see if we can find a year that's, let's do it like a weakening easterly QBO. So that's a little bit easier to find. So here we are, 1960, 1961. So we can see that the easterly QBO begins in 1960 and gets stronger early on in the year, in the early spring. We begin the easterly QBO of 1960, and it gets ever stronger as we go through the summer and into the autumn of 1960, and then it starts to weaken as we go into the winter of 61-62. So quite strong easterly QBO for December of 1960, but weakening a lot as we go into January and February of 1961, and then off into a westerly QBO through the spring of 1961. So that was not relevant. We're not going to be in a situation. We're very surprised if we're in a situation where we are, weakening this easterly QBO. We should be seeing that the QBO hold steady through this winter. So any winter that is sort of an easterly QBO but weakening easterly QBO phase, that is taken out. Another example of that would be 1968, 1969, just here. So again, we see that we have quite a strong easterly QBO to start the winter of 1968, and we see that it weakens and sort of fades out rather as we go into the latter part of the winter of 1969. So again, that one is kind of removed from the analogues. And another example would be 1986-87. So this one is actually developing the easterly QBO. It's getting stronger. So we see that the QBO of 1986-1987 begins in the summer and into the autumn of 1986. It's slow developing. It's not really until we get into the spring of 1987 that it becomes particularly strong and starts developing into a really strong easterly QBO phase. So the way I've worked out to work this out so that we're not including years that have easterly QBOs are weakening and years that have easterly QBOs are strengthening is to just go with winters that have all 3 months with minus double digits. So what I'm talking about with that, a good example would be, let's have a look at the very latest one that we will have within the analogues package. You're going to see in about 2017, 2018. So you can see that the easterly QBO of 2017 begins in the summer and very quickly, similar to this year, powers up into a strong event. We see these minus double digits here through the second half of 2017. Those minus double digits continue there through December, through January, through February, even into March, getting stronger, if anything, into the late spring and the summer of 2018 as well. But all 3 winter months are at minus double digits with this. Minus 18.12, minus 19.02, and minus 19.37. So that is the way that I've worked out, you know, so that we're not including every single ECQBO, and some of them not overly relevant. Some of them like in a weakening phase, some of them in a strengthening easterly QBO phase. All of the years that are included, all of the winters are included, have minus double digits for all 3 winter months, telling us that they are strong, mature, easterly QBO months and winters, which, if everything works out, nothing surprising and unexpected happens, is very much what we should have over the next 4 to 6 months. You know, over the next 4 to 6 months, you expect every month now, but we are at minus double digits to continue to be at minus double digits. Really wax and wane a little bit. You know, you might get a month that's a little bit less negative than the next month or something. So that could happen, but we should not go back now into minus single digits until we start to see the end of this ECQBO, probably next summer, I would have thought. Okay, so that's explained it. Now let's start looking at the data then. So this is the first one that has all 3 winter months at minus double digits. So a strong ECQBO winter. This is 1956 and also 1957. This one is rather Western zone. It just highlights the idea, you know, but not all of these ECQBO winters are going to be cold. So it's not a guarantee of anything. Some people do think of an ECQBO as being like a guarantee to a cold winter. It is not a guarantee to a cold winter. Some of these are mild, and this is one of them. Although, having said that, it does have quite a cold spell around Christmas. Actually, Christmas 1956 is a white Christmas. But overall, the winter of 1956-1957 is actually quite a mild and Atlantic-driven winter with plenty of low pressure coming in from the west. The next strong ECQBO winter, which will again include all 3 winter months at minus double digits, so at minus 10 or lower, is going to be 1958-1959. This one has a cold January, but otherwise isn't that cold in December and February, but it does have a cold January. We see that overall it does have like a blocking signal to our north, and overall we're pulling in the wind from a northerly direction. But bear in mind, a lot of that is down to what's going on in the January of 1959. This is not particularly cold in December 1958, or also in February of 1959. Now, our next strong easterly QBO winter is a very exciting one, because here we go. It's the daddy. Yes, it's a daddy of cold winters. It's 62, 63. Look at this, everyone. Look at it. That's it. I think that's the first time that we've seen it, other than for the teaser winter set. So, here we go. This is 1962, 1963. It's the daddy of cold winters. It coincides with a strong easterly QBO with all 3 winter months at minus double digits. And there we see it blocking around Greenland and Iceland. Low pressure. We have low pressure down here into Spain and the Med, and we bring in the wind from an easterly direction. It's the coldest winter for the century in temperature since 1740. It's extremely frozen and bitter cold, with both January and February having beneath freezing CET for both January and February of 1963, and December 1962 is quite cold. It all kicks off around Christmas, and when it starts during Christmas of 1962, it does not end until March, and the snow that falls, famously the snow that falls on Christmas Day, Boxing Day of 1962, is still on the ground, but, you know, well and truly topped up in the March of 1963. It's an extraordinarily cold month. And winter, and there it is, you know, there is the daddy of cold, winter 62-63, coinciding with a strong easterly phase of Quasi-Biennial-Oscillation, all three winter months during 1962-63 have minus double digits. Wow, 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 wow. We haven't seen much of a daddy so far during these winter updates, but there it is. Right, let's roll on, shall we? And we're going to have a look next at 65, 66. Again, this is coinciding with a strong eastern QBO phase. This one much more unsettled, milder, and Atlantic driven, though it does have quite a cold early part of winter. So December 1965 is quite cold. And then early January 1966 also has a bit of a freeze up with easterly winds. But then later on in the winter, it gets much milder. February 1966, it is wet, mild, and Atlantic driven. So it's what we call a front-loaded winter with the coldest weather in the early part, the front part of the winter. And then it gets milder later on. It does have its moments, though, as do most of the 1960s winters, and the blocking signal that we see there around Greenland, Iceland sort of gives a game wave. But there is at least some cold weather during winter of 65, 66. The next strong ECQBO winter, with all 3 months coming out with minus double digits, is 1974, 1975. This one with high pressure to our south, lots of low pressure away to the northwest, and with this we'll be bringing up wind from the southwest. So this is a very mild winter, quite dry as well. It's in the middle of the drought years of the middle 1970s, and this one, 74, 75, is a dry, mild winter. Excuse me. And particularly dry for more southern areas. Sort of a winter that begins the drought, I suppose, for 74, 75, and it just goes on through the rest of 75 and into 1976. Our next strong ECQBO winter, with all 3 months coming out with minus double digits, is for the QBO is 1976, 1977. This again a bit of a front-loaded winter. Does have quite a strong blocking signal within the northern latitudes. Low pressure is over West Europe. This is extremely cold winter across America, Eastern America, with this trough of low pressure just here. That brings Eastern, Northeast America one of their coldest winters, if not the coldest winter on record for 76, 77. We start off cold in December of 1976, and then again it gets progressively milder, particularly so in February of 1977. Front-loaded winter, maybe you would say even a little bit of a teaser winter. Our next winter is also quite front-loaded. Maybe that's a bit of a trend here, who knows. This is 81, 82. So again, winter of 1981, 1982 has this northern blocking signal to our north. It has low pressure coming in off the Atlantic to the south of that. This has a very cold December in 1981. It is almost one of the coldest Decembers on record. Cold continues into the early to middle part of January. There's a big freeze up and a major blizzard across many parts of the country during the second week of January 1982. But when that thaws out, second half of January into February goes much milder. And again, February 1982 is generally quite mild and rather Atlantic-driven. Reasonably dry, though, but is much milder. Overall, winter of 81-82 is a cold winter, though, and it does coincide with a strong easterly QBO. Next up, we have 1983-1984. This is a funny old winter. This one has lots of low pressure in the Atlantic and is an Atlantic-driven winter. It has high pressure pulled out towards Newfoundland. The thing with this winter is that we bring in unusually cold air from Canada across the North Atlantic. So although it is a westerly Atlantic-driven winter, it's actually quite a cold winter for a westerly winter, and particularly so for northern parts of the country. There's regular snowfalls during January and February 1984 from what we call cold zonality. So rather strange and sort of one-off winter, really. 83, 84. Now we have 91, 92 next. So this is, again, coinciding with a strong easterly QBO. This is a dry and mild winter. This one, again, with big area of high pressure parked over top of UK ice. A very cold winter for eastern, southeastern Europe, with this trough of low pressure from Russia and extending down to southeast Europe, by the way. So this will see the snow piling up through the Balkans and, you know, down to Romania and into Greece and Turkey. Be most of the scenes where you have snow piling up in Athens, I suspect. But for us in the UK and Ireland and Western Europe, we're stuck under the area of high pressure. It goes nowhere fast. It's probably the most boring winter of my lifetime. Bear in mind, I was born in 1977. It's probably tied between 91, 92, and maybe 2016, 17. I'm not sure, but certainly it's up there with the most boring winters that you can possibly imagine. Just day after day after day after day under anticyclonic glue and relatively mild temperatures and absolutely nothing whatsoever to talk about. So let's hope that one doesn't verify. I'm going to be a little bit, I don't normally be biased with these updates, but I am going to be a little bit biased with that because I do not want 91, 92 coming back, because what on earth will I find to talk about in my videos? Now this one's a little bit more exciting. This is 2000, 2001. So this one is a funny winter. It has quite a lot of blocking to the north, but it's also Atlantic driven. There's regular cold snaps during winter of 2000, 2001, but it's not particularly cold winter in the south. However, it is a cold winter in the north. Scotland has quite a cold winter for 2000, 2001, with winds often in from the east, and a particularly notably snowy and cold spell during early February of 2001. Meanwhile, further south, it is a milder type winter, but still with regular cold interludes and some snow. You know, even gets down to the south in the winter of 2000, 2001. Next, we have 2005, 2006, which was, again, strong easterly QBO winter, with all of the winter months coming out minus double digits. This one looks like it should be a very cold winter, but isn't. Has strong blocking, you know, to the north, and low pressure is to the south. You look at it and think we're bringing in wind from a long way east and northeast from the Urals, and we frozen up, but we wasn't. It's a funny winter that never really gets going until late on. It's actually a bit backloaded. Talking about front-loaded winter, but this one's a bit backloaded in that the coldest weather happens from like the middle, second half of February through the first half of March. So it's like a 4-week period, late February into March, but it is pretty cold and does have some snow. Otherwise, the rest of the winter is just rather nondescript. There's a little brief snowy spell just after Christmas with easy winds, but overall for the analogue anyway, you know, for the reanalysis, it's a little bit of a disappointing winter from a cold perspective, a rather failed winter, I suppose. This one definitely is not a failed winter. This is 09-10, 2009, 2010. Again, coinciding with a strong easterly QBO, with all 3 months at minus double digits. This one has the blocking just perfectly set up over Greenland, with all our below pressure from the Atlantic into Western Europe. The jet stream is down here somewhere, and we're bringing him in from the east a lot with this winter of 09-10, 2009, 2010. So this one just regularly cold. You know, it's on and off throughout the winter, regular easterly and northerly winds, on and off through the winter, regular bouts of snow. I think the coldest phase is probably the first half of January. There's like a 2-week period, first half of January from New Year to the middle of January, but that's really cold actually, and very snowy. But that's not to say the rest of the winter isn't cold. You know, before Christmas, there's cold and snowy weather. In February, there's cold and snowy weather, albeit not severe. So, you know, it's just one of those winters. We don't get them very often, but it's one of those winters that is just cold from beginning to end. And 09-10, of course, is there as a strong easterly QBO winter. Then we have 2011, 2012. This is a milder winter, very cold again for the Balkans, with the trough of low pressure down the east side, high pressure is out to our west, and we send the wind on a northwest-southeast alignment. So that one is rather mild, dry winter, but does have one very cold spell in the south and east of the country, in particular in the early part of February, but otherwise it's a relatively dry and mild winter for 2011-2012. Then we have 2014-2015. This in some ways is a little bit similar to 83-84, actually, in that it is an Atlantic-driven zonal winter. Lots of low pressure to the north and high pressure pulled out to our west. But the wind coming in from like a northwesterly direction means it's probably a rather cool winter, you know, for an Atlantic-driven winter. The sense of CT is about average, which again, for an Atlantic winter, you would expect CT to be above average. So this one, again, a little bit similar to 83-84, but the air that we pull out of Canada is nowhere near as cold as it is in 83-84. And then the final winter, that coincides with a strong ECQBO, where all 3 winter months are coming out with minus double digits, you know, for the QBO, is 2017-2018. This is quite a cold winter, or a cool winter anyway. It does contain the beast from the east, so yes, it's beast from the east winter in the latter part of February. Before that, it's a little bit on and off, so there's regular periods of mild, wet, Atlantic-driven weather, but there are periods of cold snow weather too. There's a memorable cold, snowy spell during the middle part of December 2017. There's more snow for the north and northeast in January of 2018. And then the cold really becomes quite severe later on in February of 2018. Overall, for the period, which is a period of mild winters generally, this one stands out as a rather colder winter. Okay, so let's start putting all of that together. This is how all Decembers combined are looking following strong easterly QBO winters. So this is it. We find that it's an unsettled signal for the Decembers with lots of low pressure over and to the east of the country. High pressure in the middle of the Atlantic, reaching somewhat north. So yeah, you know, it's not a classic cold chart, but there is cold potential given that the trough low pressure is centered over and to the east of the country. It means that at the very least, with a lot of these Decembers, we're pulling in the wind from a northwesterly direction. But what happens when we get to January? The signal for cold weather strengthens. This is how all Januaries combined are looking following strong easterly QBO winters. Yes, we have the low pressure then centered more to our south, and we strengthen that blocking area of high pressure within the high latitudes to the north, and we bring in the wind from an easterly direction. So cold and wintry and snowy is favoured where we have these strong easterly QBO winters going on, where we're down into minus double digits. And then for all 3 winter months. And then we have all Februaries combined following strong easterly QBO winters. And again, it's a very similar signal. The high pressure is like to our north and northeast, or maybe a little bit more easterly, if anything, with these low pressure sort of blocked out to our west, and winds tending to be favoured to be coming in from the east. So a cold signal as well for those Februaries. And overall, the winter itself, winters themselves look like this. This is how all winters combined are looking following strong easterly QBO winters. It's quite an exciting analogue. It has quite a bit of blocking within the northern latitudes and over towards Vobard with low pressure to our south, favouring winds to be coming in from an easterly direction. So a lot of these winds, not all of them were established. It's not, you know, 100%, but a lot of these winters are cold and wintry and maybe even somewhat snowy within that overall analogues package. Right, so I'm just going to pause the video back. When we come back, we'll just talk a little bit about the strength of these strong easterly QBOs. So something I've noticed is that there can be a little bit of a difference between the strength of these easterly QBO winters. So more about that in a second. I'll just pause the video there, and I'll see you in a mo. Okay, we're back, and we're ready to resume part 2 of the 8th winter 2021-2022 update from GavsWeatherVids. It's a QBO special. I hope you enjoyed it. Please smash your like button if you have. I just want to talk a little bit about the strength of these strong easterly QBO winters. Something I've noticed is quite interesting. Right, so back at the QBO page from NOAA. So we've explained that all of these winters that we just looked at, before I pause the video, were minus double digit for all 3 winter months. So again, let's just explain that. We've got 1983-84 just here. We have December 1983 at minus 11.42. January 1984 at minus 11.65. February 1984 at minus 11.34. So all 3 of those winter months were minus double digits, and that's the case for every single one of these winters. But some of these winters are a lot stronger than that. So let's have a look at 2014-15, this winter just here. So that actually takes the QBO very, very, very strongly negative. We go down to minus 25.38 in December 2014. We go down to minus 26.70 in January of 2015. And an unbelievable minus 28.62 in February of 2015. Exceptionally negative with that. And of course that is not an overly cold winter. Now let's pick out the daddy, shall we? Let's pick out 62-63, see what that one did. Did that go into minus 20s? Actually it did not. 62-63 looks like this. December minus 15.16, still very negative, but nowhere into minus 20s. January 1963 at minus 17.35, again very negative, but not dropping into the minus 20s. And February 1963, again very negative, minus 16.68, but again not dropping into minus 20s. It wasn't until the spring and early summer of 1963 that we go into the minus 20s, as we see just there. And it does sort of seem to work out, but quite a few of the coldest winters, or the colder winters, some of the coldest winters, are coinciding with these eastern QBOs that are in sort of minus double digits, but not going into the minus 20s. The ones that actually go extremely negative, maybe because they're starting to come to the end of the QBO phase, actually. I expect that's what's going on, and so Western QBO is beginning to power up within the stratospheric level before starting to descend into the troposphere. So ECQB will be at strongest up the end of the cycle, generally. So that could be explaining why the winters that go to minus 20s tend to actually be not as cold as the winters that are just, very solidly negative, but not extremely negative. So I'll just have a very quick look at that, and then we're going to be done. So this is how all Decembers combined are looking, following strong easterly QBO winters that are going into the minus 20s, at least one of the months during those winters. So with this, we've got 1958-59, we've got 1965-66, we've got 1974-75, we've got 2005-2006, interesting, and we've got 2015-2016. So this whole December's combined looking still rather cool signal, actually, with below average heights to our north and east, below average heights pulled out into the Atlantic, wind and jet stream on northwest southeast line. So unsettled, probably quite cool. Maybe cold with a little bit of wintry potential for those Decembers. But look what happens in January. Nowhere near as much of a clear-cut cold signal with all Januaries combined following ECQBO winters that are going down into the minus 20s for the QBO in at least one of those winter months. So for the Januaries, it's same sort of idea. We got below average heights over and sort of to our south. It looks like the coldest weather is probably going down into the southeast of Europe, actually. We do have some blocking still. It is still there, but it is much reduced compared to the, the all January's combined chart that we looked at before we paused the video. And then this is how all February's combined are looking, following these very strongest easterly QBO winters dropping down into the minus 20s and at least one of the months for the QBO. And it's an anticyclonic signal. It could be cold, but I mean, it's mainly an anticyclonic dry sort of signal. And to be honest, some of the years could be mild as well. So probably dry, mildish sort of signal for quite a few of those Februaries. And all winters combined, when we are at our strongest easterly QBO winters, not an overly clear-cut cold signal to be honest, for 58, 59, for 65, 66, for 74, 75, for 2005, 2006, and 2014, 15. It's not an overly clear-cut cold signal. There is a little bit of cool potential, but nowhere near as much, you know, as the set that we just looked at before I paused the video. And compare to all December's combined following strong ECQBO winters that are between -10 and -20. So these are strong ECQBO winters, but not the very strongest. December, obviously, much more in way of blocking within the high latitudes. Below average height still sort of over to the east coast, so it seems to make very little difference really to the Decembers. Unsettled overall for these Decembers, and you know, looking quite Atlantic driven, but cold, sending the jet stream on a northwest southeast line. By the way, this includes 56, 57, 62, 63, but daddy, 76, 77, 81, 82, 83, 84, 91, 92, 2000, 2001, 09, 10. 2011, 2012, and 2017, 2018. That's how all December's combined are looking. Now, look what happens when we get to January. This is how all January's combined are looking, taking out those very strongest QBO winters, if you like. So, there again, the months here with these QBO winters are between -10 and -20 with the QBO number. You can see how much stronger the blocking is in all January's combined here with these, you know, not taking out the strongest ECQBOs. Very, very strong blocking to the north and low pressure to the south, winds in from an easterly direction. How interesting is that? And then this is how all February's combined are looking, taking out those strongest easterly QBO winters. And again, we have a very strong blocking signal. Not as clear cut for cold as January, but have a strong blocking signal, and overall you would still be favouring rather cold conditions in the Februaries as well. All looking very, very interesting. And then this is how all winters combined are looking, following the strongest, following strong ECQBOs, but taking out the strongest ECQBO winters, and just having the QBO numbers coming in between -10 and -20. That's how it looks. That's how it looks with blocking to the north. Low pressure to the south, winds in from the east, clearly favouring a colder than average winter for those strong easterly QBO winters. Now, let's come back to here, where we are on this scale. So my explanation for this is probably that these winters that are dipping down into -20s, like 2014, 15. Look at this. We go into the -20s here quite early on, though, through the autumn and on into the winter, but by the spring, beginning to reverse into 2015. So my explanation is probably that with a lot of these very strongest ECQBO winters, we are beginning to reverse it and strengthen the westerly QBO at the top of the stratosphere, you know, before the winter is over. And that would explain why it's a milder signal with the very strongest ECQBO winters. Now, where we are on this scale, my guess is we will probably keep this in the -teens, at least through the early part of the winter. We might flip it into -20s, maybe later on in the winter, but I've got a feeling that for like October, November, December, possibly January, and if we get lucky, maybe February too, we will keep this in the -teens. Although it has been a quick flip into the ECQBO, but when we had that in 2017, you see how quickly we went into minus digits in 2017, but we stayed in the minus teens, you know, through 2017-18, through that winter. We didn't go to -20s until the very end of the spring, actually, and into the summer of 2018. So my guess, and it is only a guess, we might go into the -20s if we're unlucky or lucky, depending on your point of view. We might go into the -20s, you know, during this winter, but my guess is we will keep this in the teens, probably the -teens, probably, through this winter, but we shall see, and we'll be keeping a very close eye on it. Overall, though, obviously, an ECQBO, when we've established, does favour a colder than average winter, as you would expect, but it is not, as we've seen, a guarantee. Right, this has been very, very extended. I wanted to go to town with this and really give you a QBO special. We've done that, so I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please smash your like button, make sure you sub to the channel. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. I think we've pretty much exhausted everything on the EC QBO with that. So I just hope you enjoyed it, and that's it. That's our QBO special. After our solo special last week, our QBO special is now done and dusted. Thank you so much to Rich, and thank you so much to Shryan for all of the help on this update. And yeah, nearly 40 minutes, I'm going to stop it there. You will find out at the beginning of next week's 9th update how this 8th update in 2 parts has affected the swingometer. That's be the first one we'll look at the beginning of the 9th update next week, next Sunday. So, yeah, you'll find out then what's happened. But for the 8th Winter 2021-2022 update in 2 parts, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.